Hey, welcome back. It's been another week, another time for a weekly word. We spent last week on the other side of Star Mountain over here. We're going to pan the camera over that way. We can look at the mountain. And we're on the west side today. Last week we were over on the east side, visiting some of the local cemeteries and showing you some of the, last week we showed you a very famous fella, Mr. John G., who all the G Creek stuff's named after him. Today we've come to show you somebody a little more infamous. We're over in the Conasauga Cemetery. Civil War battle actually took place here. But this is a fellow by the name of William Buster Duggan. And there's a very good book called The Legend of Buster Duggan, and the story of one of his victims by Jerald, Ruldolf, Burke, and Elizabeth S. Howard. Highly recommended, entertaining reading here. According to this book, this was a very, very mean man. He killed people in several different states, a lot of them around the local area, usually for no good reason at all. Maybe they got into it over a card game or something. Once he tried to escape his reputation and was going to change his identity, and up at Mount Vernon he killed a black man apparently and put him in his own home and burnt the home down. Problem was it didn't burn well enough, and they could tell by the corpse that was what was remains of it that it was a black man and Buster was a white man, so that didn't work. Eventually he was killed by, at least insinuated to in this book here, by the old U.S. Deputy Marshal Jim Rose, who waited in Buster's barn until he came out on the porch one morning and shot him in the side of the head with a large bore rifle. And that was the end of Buster Duggan, almost. They buried him here in Conasauga Cemetery, and the day after the burial, somebody came by early one morning on the road here, and they looked and there was smoke coming from the cemetery, and they came up here to see what was going on. And somebody had dug up Buster's corpse and set the casket on fire that he was in. I don't know who did that, but I know one thing. You got to really hate somebody to do something like that. Well, it's an almost parallel story about one of our Christian martyrs who was hated not for a bad reason, but he was hated by bad people for a good reason. And he lived back in the 1300s. His name was John Wycliffe. And back in the 1300s, the church elite had come to the point where only the clergy had the Bible. And John Wycliffe wanted to put it in the hands of the laity, which really means the people. And he translated the first English full version of the Bible and made sure to get it to the common people, because his mantra was, you can only trust truth to come from the pages of the Holy Bible. And the church elite didn't like it that day, and after he died natural causes of a stroke later on, they waited a few years, but they were still so mad about John Wycliffe that they actually dug his corpse up and burned the remains of it and threw the ashes in the river. You got to hate somebody a lot to do that, don't you? And what stirred up all that hatred is, the bottom line is this: the devil did not want you to have a copy of the Bible. And that's what that was all about back then. So thank the good Lord that you do. And I'm still a firm believer of what John Wycliffe said, that you can only trust truth to be found in the pages of that book. Now, we all us preachers, and just like everybody else, we've got our opinions. And I hope as preachers we're getting our opinions from the pages of the book. But if you ever got a question about something some preacher, me, or anybody else says, they say, show me that in the book. I don't get that, and it ain't the way I read it. But we're Protestants. We believe that the authority comes from the book, because that's the inspired Word of God, and that's what we trust our soul's salvation in, what the book says to us. All right, we'll see you next week. We'll see if we can find something else to do on the weekly word here. We're going to leave Buster alone.